Hi everyone, it's Tasha. Welcome or welcome back to my channel.
Well, hello out there. Welcome back to the channel. It should come as no surprise to you that I have spent some time at some thrift shops this past week. I do have a few really good finds to share with you, as well as a couple of DIYs. So let's dive right into those. First of all, I would be surprised if you haven't seen this piece of art either at Target in person or online, because it's been very popular. This is this 18 by 18 hearth and hand piece with this beautiful linen print in the middle that has a fringed edge. I really like it, but it did get me thinking, could I make something like this myself? So I started to look up if you could print on fabric from your home printer, and it turns out you kind of can. So I'm gonna go for it. I have some cheesecloth that I actually got from our kitchen. It's a very, very thin sort of cotton if you aren't familiar, and I'm going to be attaching that to a piece of printer paper using a glue stick and just doing a kind of light stripe of that glue stick around all of the edges. I don't want to have too much trouble getting it back off afterwards, but at the same time I want the edges to be down flat so that this will potentially go into my printer with no problems. And a quick disclaimer, if you have any concerns about messing up your home printer, don't try this at home. If you have any concerns or an expensive printer, I have a free printer that's very old. I don't use it for anything except for shipping labels every once in a while, so I'm going to go for it. First, I had to figure out what kind of print I wanted to use, so I turned to Etsy to look at a couple of options that I thought were pretty similar to the inspiration piece. I found this one from North Prints and then this one from Atlas Vintage. Those are both shops on Etsy. I thought they would both work pretty well, but I went with the first one. So when I first put my paper with this cheesecloth on it into the printer, it did not want to accept it. It spit it back out a couple of times, as you can see, but on the third attempt, it went ahead and pulled it in and started to print. Unfortunately, image didn't really come through very crisply at all. It was very washed out and not really acceptable, so I had to go back into my settings, make it a lot darker, and also change it to high quality output. And the second time though, it actually worked, and I was so excited to see it come out. It does have a very vintage and kind of ethereal, airy quality, which is actually a lot like the original inspiration piece. I went in with some very sharp scissors and cut this down to the relative size that I wanted, and then pulled out 1 or 2 threads at a time on each side until I had the amount of fringe that I was looking for. This was a very easy step in the process, and once I was done and had the edges fringed, it really began to look really beautiful, more like what I was envisioning. So I'm really glad I went ahead and gave this a shot. As for the matting, I decided to use some black poster board that I already had on hand from another project, and I just picked up this piece of poster board for around $1 at my local Dollar General a while back. I'm using this thrifted frame. I actually got a set of 3 of these, so I'm just using one for this project. It's a beautiful driftwood color, which you'll see in a minute, and I want this to have a completely solid black background, just like the inspiration photo. I think it looks really pretty against the linen, so I'm using the matting that came with this frame just as my template to cut out the correct size of this black matting. I centered my linen piece the best I could in the middle of the black matting, and again just went for my glue stick with a really light stripe around each side to keep it in place. Now, I mentioned that I had 3 of these frames, and I'll just show you what I'm doing with one of the other ones. I did decide to split them up. I found this beautiful cottage print also at the thrift store. It was inside of a different frame. I think it had like a hunter green matting around it, and I took that out of what it was in and put it in one of these frames. I think it looks really sweet and charming up here on the mantle. But in the meantime, I'm using a second one of those frames for this project today, and now I am just putting all of this back in place. I managed to cut myself with the glass when trying to put this back together, but otherwise this project went really smoothly and I didn't really have any problems with it. I will say that you can also buy some printable fabric sheets directly instead of doing the method that I did where I put the fabric onto the regular paper. So if you want to check that out, I'll link to something on Amazon. I think you should be able to fringe the edges of that kind of like I did, but I wanted to try this out at no cost since I already had that at home. I'm just storing my matting right in the back here in case I want to use it for something else, and I think that this turned out so well. It's not a square like the inspiration photo, so I chose an image to match the frame that I had and the proportions thereof. So I did leave the glass in. The original from Target also has glass, but I ended up changing it out just because I think that it's even nicer when you don't have a glare on the front, and I couldn't be happier with this project. Now another thing that I picked up from the thrift shops this week was this cute little set of this apple and pear. These are both woven pieces. They're pretty generously sized, and I think that they are made out of palm leaves. After looking them up, I found a few on eBay. So these were priced really well at just $2 a piece, and I thought I could definitely give them a little bit of a makeover, get rid of that bright green color, and they would be great accent pieces in my home. They have real sticks for the stems, and they're just really interesting, so I was definitely drawn to them. It's been rainy here a lot of the week, but that didn't stop me. I just went out onto the front porch, and I thought that what I would do would be to leave the sound on so you guys could hear the rain. A little bit of ASMR here for you, but I'm just going to be using some wood stain on these. I thought that the stain would probably soak right in, and I was right. So I just taped off a little bit of those stems that I didn't want to get the stain on and went in with a brush to apply the stain. I'm using a color called 𝓘𝓷𝓼𝓽𝓪𝓰𝓻𝓪𝓶. These only needed one coat of this stain, and then I went in with a paper towel to remove some of the excess and help them to dry a little bit quicker. And once the stain had dried on these, I brought them inside. I'm really happy with how they turned out. I think that the dark stain definitely goes with my home better than that kind of bright green would have, and I think that they look really charming and unique. I don't think that many people are going to have these, even though pears and apples are trending pretty hard in the fall world here. I don't think that many people are going to have these exact ones, which is part of the reason that I love going to the thrift stores. I think they look good styled separately. They look really sweet together also, or kind of stacked nearby, one high, one low, like this on the console table behind the sofa. So for now, that is where I left these. I think they were a great find. This week, I also picked up these two hardback books from my local Goodwill. They're $1.49 each there for hardbacks, and these are both Ansel Adams books full of his photographs and some letters. I love getting books like this. I liked, first of all, that these were both black with a silver stamping on the side. I thought that they looked pretty as a set, and I love flipping through looking at the photographs. You can also style them open on a table somewhere to some of the prints that you especially like, so they were a great buy, I think, especially for that price. And I decided to style them here on this DIY table that I did in between these two chairs in my living room. What I liked about this styling was the fact that it wasn't a high contrast color with the table, so it adds some texture with that layering and that cozy touch without feeling too busy, because the black isn't too far off from the dark stain that I chose on the table. I also picked up this long oval carved style wooden bowl from a thrift shop in Hillsboro, and What I like about this is that it has that nice rustic look. Even if it's not actually an old piece, it's meant to look that way, and so it has that charm to it. It was $8, which was slightly higher than I was expecting, but I went ahead and got it to support this particular thrift store. So a couple of weeks ago, I found these nesting tables on Facebook Marketplace, and I love them so much in this family room. However, I did lose the little drawer that I had and the smaller table that I swapped out there. So that's where I had my remotes. So I decided to use this wooden bowl on the console table behind our sofa just to slip those into. It's really easy to grab them out of it without opening up a box or a storage box because we're grabbing them on and off throughout the day, but they still look so much more collected and aesthetically pleasing than they would if they were just sitting on the console table in the open. And those were my finds for the week. I hope that you saw something that inspired you. My goal in these videos is always to leave you feeling inspired to go out and look secondhand for things that you could curate for your home for the exact look that you want for less as well. If you enjoyed today's video, please hit the thumbs up button before you leave and leave me a comment letting me know what you enjoyed. Also, I really appreciate reading your comments. Also, hit the subscribe button if you're new here and you would like to see more of these videos in your feed. As always, I hope that everyone listening has a fantastic week, and I'll see you at the next video.